This is the 2016 Mazda CX-3. When I first saw this vehicle, I thought, well, it looks like the bratty little sister I never had. For 2016, the CX-3 gets this dynamic blue paint color as an option. This fits the personality of this vehicle almost perfectly. I hear plenty of people talk about how the CX-3 is kind of the smaller CX-5, and that's not really true at all, because really this is a Mazda 2 on steroids, or a Scion IA. It's just kind of raised up, and you also get this all-wheel drive option. Knowing that information is kind of critical in helping you to understand this is a smaller vehicle. I thought it was going to be a lot bigger than it was until I came upon it for the first time, and I'm like, man, this looks like a small car. And that's really part of its charm. It has a ton of character. It screams at you, let's go to Starbucks for an Oprah chai latte, or let's go to Burger King and get one of their fresh, new, delicious hot dogs in your gums. Now, the CX-3 is supposed to be this compact crossover. And when you think of that, you think of utility. Like, I'm gonna load this thing up and just go on a trip, or whatever the hell you do. When I open up this hatch for the first time, this is my biggest problem with this vehicle, front to back, because I did a little research, and it turns out the Mazda 3 hatchback has more cargo capacity, more legroom, more space front to back than the CX-3. And it begs the question, why? Well, you know, you could take this cover off and gain more space, but one of the things that's strange is you actually have to put the seats down in the back to get any usable storage, and then it becomes a more practical vehicle. But it's one of those things, if you're looking at a small, you know, CUV or a compact crossover, this is kind of the fine print of vehicles like this. Really, the main reason you buy this over a Mazda 3.
Because it has all-wheel drive.
Yes, but you can get this without all-wheel drive, which would make no sense. So that's
sure it would, because they want an SUV. They want a sport ute.
This is not a sport ute.
What is it?
It's a crossover, or compact crossover, which is a car jacked up.
It's like that thing AMC made back in the 80s. Nobody knew what the hell to call it. It's just the that.
So you know what the marketing lingo is for this all-wheel drive system?
No, tell me.
Oh, it's amazing. It's called iActive all-wheel drive.
It should be all-wheel drive too.
With a hashtag?
Yeah. Fucking pound sign everything.
It should have pound signs all over the place.
Yeah. They should do the wheels as pound signs.
Just shaped like pound signs?
Yeah.
Ooh.
You should have brought up the idea. Now they're gonna make them.
Yeah, they're gonna steal your idea.
That guy Justin Bieber will probably put them on his Lamborghini.
Yeah, Bieber always buys all the cool stuff. I bet you he could invest in your idea.
Well, anyway, tell me more about this all-wheel drive. I'm dying to know.
Okay, so the deal is with this all-wheel drive system, it's unique because it's preemptive. They've spent a ton of time comparing all the other on-demand all-wheel drive systems like the CR-V, the RAV4, essentially any other car that has all on-demand. What they did is they wanted it to respond to slippage before there was tire slip. So to do that, it's a lot of calculations, a lot of data.
I would imagine.
Yeah. So their ECUs monitor 200 times a second all these different inputs, from actual hydraulic pressure in the brake system, steering input, outside temperature, ambient temperature. There are multiple other sensors that they're looking at in terms of wheel speed sensors, slippage, G-force sensors. If you're on a hill, it looks at if you're on a hill or on a decline and the temperature, so it knows where to send the power before you're even on the gas, because it's assuming if it's cold out, you're in shitty conditions. And the cool part about that is you never get wheel slip. Like, it always seems to know where to put the power when you're turning, so the car's not reacting. It's proactively adjusting power instead of reacting. Like if you lose grip on the
being sideways, then kicking the rear end out?
Right. It's supposed to be transparent to the driver, And that's one of the best parts about driving this. It's really unbelievable, even in the snow, how much you can't even tell the four-wheel drive system is working. It just turns. The only thing that limits the whole performance is the tires. That if you put a set of snow tires on here, I couldn't imagine it would feel like it would have four-wheel steering. That's the only thing I can explain it as.
Well, I guess the main thing I want to know about this car, does it have a sound tube?
Does it look like it has a sound tube?
Well, I don't know. It could be under all this nonsense.
You know what I can tell you about this car? It doesn't need a sound tube because it sounds like you're in a tin can. It's the engine is so loud. You realize how much insulation is usually put in cars to.
I mean, look at this. It's like that Saturn that was just you shut it and it sounds like you're dropping a piece of sheet metal on the ground. It doesn't even make like a normal hood sound. It's
right.
So weird.
Yeah. So I mean, I gotta say that it's gonna turn some people off. And some people are going to like it. And I'm one of those people that I'm so tired of them trying to tart up all these four cylinders.
Well, you like it just because of this.
I'm not that biased.
It's because it's a Mazda.
What other motor is this in?
Oh, I don't care, but you just only like this car because it's a Mazda.
It could say Scion on it. I'd still like it.
Because it's a Mazda.
Being behind the wheel of the Mazda is a visceral experience. You kind of feel most of the road coming back through the steering wheel. This is a more sporty sprung car. It's not going to give you that sense of overall refinement. And that's part of the charm of this car because, there's so many cars out there that are just disconnected, just isolated from the road and the world around you. You can hear a lot of road noise here. You feel just a sense of connection to the vehicle. Now, in terms of driving, the automatic transmission in this car is kind of the benchmark, in my opinion, for a lot of vehicles, cheap and expensive. It is so good at responding to downshift. So we're in manual mode, sport mode on, and we're gonna take a look at this, see how it responds. Holds revs, will not auto upshift. The all-wheel drive system on here is pretty impressive, actually. Let's take a listen to the downshifts here. It will not complain about downshifting at all. It rev matches downshifts. It's just, if you're looking for a more fun to drive car that you have to have an automatic, this is the one. I mean, this 6-speed automatic and most of these Mazda cars are just really enjoyable to drive. Well, let's take a look at the acceleration here. Now this 2-liter in here makes a lot of racket. It makes a lot of noise. It's very visceral. There's not a lot of sound insulation in here. But again, that's part of the charm of the CX-3 is you feel more connected to the car. If you're somebody that needs a lot of road isolation, you're probably not going to like this. The all-wheel drive system, that's one of the big reasons to buy this vehicle. And Mazda wants it to be completely transparent to you. They want you to have traction at all times. And this is a surprisingly good balance where you feel a very neutral chassis here. Let's take it through here. It is really balanced. I mean, there's never a time where this thing doesn't have grip. I mean, the whole problem with it is the tires. I bet you if you put a really set of sticky tires on here, this would be ridiculous. It doesn't understeer and it doesn't oversteer. It's just completely neutral. And a lot of that is just the way that they've tuned the setup to deliver power to the back. It's constantly monitoring everything. And their whole big thing here is it's like a preemptive system. It knows temperature outside. It knows kind of how you're driving the car. It knows the transmission state. It knows how you're turning the steering wheel. So it's always adjusting the power to the back, and it's kind of setting you up for the best possible scenario. I leave the traction control completely on in the CX-3 because I've never felt traction loss. I've never seen the lights light up. It's just always got grip. You know, with all-wheel drive, the concern is, yeah, you're going to lose fuel efficiency. In the case of the CX-3, you're going to lose some fuel efficiency, but it just depends on how you drive mostly, because this is set up so well not to have drivetrain losses. I'm seeing about 30 miles per gallon when I'm just driving fully automatic, when I don't have this transmission in sport mode, and that's pretty good. Now, that's going to be even better in winter for you. Obviously, you get that confidence, and this system is just feels great when you're driving it. Now, in sport mode and manual mode, when you're just driving like an animal, I haven't seen much lower than 26 miles per gallon, which is a really good sign that, you know, you can have some fun without a lot of trade-offs here in terms of efficiency. When I dumped my rump into the seat of the CX-3 for the first time, it hit me. This is another Mazda driver-centric cockpit. Most of your controls, ergonomics are designed right around the driver, which makes this vehicle more engaging to just pilot every day. Now, the thing is, this is the same interior you're going to find in the Mazda 2 and the new Scion IA. You know, the only thing different here is a little bit of the color variation. You have red accents. You have this black leatherette padded dash piece, which has red cross stitching. The doors have this red leatherette, and there's, you know, accents all over the place. Now, there are some elements that they're trying to make a little bit more sporty here, like this faux carbon fiber, like vinyl on the dash pod, the doors, and all that. And it's subtle without being super cheesy. Now, the overall comfort in this vehicle for being a compact is pretty good, and there's some surprising things here, like the door armrests are padded properly. You have an optional center armrest here, which, you know, works for what it is, and you actually have padding at your knee area, which a lot of vehicles, even twice this price, don't get that right. But one of my big complaints here is, and I do have larger shoulders, and it's not like I go destroy my shoulders at the gym or anything, but I feel like my shoulder blades are constantly being dug into by these seats. They don't have particularly good bolstering on the extreme edges of them. So if you're a larger person, you might notice that. Now, if you're smaller, shorter, this is probably going to be a very fitted, very good feeling vehicle. Now, there are some trade-offs with compact platforms, and that is there's only so much space to work with in terms of packaging. You only have limited room where you're going to put everything. So if this was me, I would get rid of these back doors and stretch this entire front cabin back. It would give you all the usable space you want. But nobody would buy that car. Everybody seems to want four-door cars or SUVs, CUVs nowadays. So this is what you have, and here's the trade-offs of that. The first thing is this center stack area. Excellently laid out. The simplicity here is like a throwback to the early 2000s, late 90s, where you're not inundated by buttons. Everything's simple to use. Knobs, switches, buttons, seat heaters, vents, stupid simple, amazing, I love it. But then you come down here to the storage area, which is very, very shrunken compared to like the Mazda 3. You have a much deeper well to store things there. In this case, if you have something plugged in USB, you can't store your phone here. And not only that, is the phone or space where you'd likely put your phone isn't really designed for phones over 5 inches, which is pretty much every modern phone now. So that's kind of annoying. The second thing is your central command knob that's here. It's so far down that really to use it, you have to have your seat back more, and you know, it's just kind of out of reach. It's not very ergonomically placed as much as it is on the other Mazda vehicles. The last and most annoying part is, well, yes, I need an armrest. It's covering up your cup holder area. So if you have bottles like this, you have to lift it up to get at the bottles, and then the bottles or the cups are farther back. It's just harder to get to while you're driving. So that's really the biggest nitpicking area I can make of this interior. Last but not least is the Mazda infotainment. And they've decided to do standardization here. And what I mean by that is it doesn't matter if you spend $16,000 on a budget basement model or a balls to the wall $40,000 Mazda 6. This is the same technology. And why that is good is because Mazda's opted for a Linux-based operating system with a lot of memory, multi-core processors, and all that means to the average person is it's very quick to respond. There's no lag. Like, for example, the mapping software. If you decide to use the touchscreen, scrolling around here is lightning fast. It's really quick. If you opt for the central rotary command knob, when you just annihilate these menus, there's no delay. There's actually no lag at all once this thing is booted up. Now, you may experience some slowdown, but it's like 1% of the time. And this newer firmware, I have not had any freeze-ups with it yet. Even pairing up multiple Bluetooth devices, using USB, it's been really solid. So this is a huge pro if you're looking at this car. The next thing is the Bose audio. And this is one thing, it's pretty average. I would say if you're trying to save money and you don't want to dump the money on it, the regular sound system in the base model is pretty decent overall. So here's the conclusion. I've been in so many different vehicles lately, I don't even remember them all. And one trend I can tell you I've seen is the manufacturers are trying to sterilize their vehicles. And what I mean by that is they're designing everything around removing the driving experience from the vehicle. It's about everything else. Tech, gadgets, just overall luxury and refinement. Mazda has something real here, and that is their vehicles still have a bit of a personality. These are vehicles designed for people that enjoy driving. And it's not just, making the vehicle look cute. It's beyond that. The CX-3 has a lot of trade-offs. Really, it's not all that usable and practical in terms of storage. This is more for somebody that absolutely has to have all-wheel drive and they want a smaller platform. That's who this is going to appeal to. But one of its best aspects is the overall driving experience. It's not the most quiet, it's not the most refined, but the transmission's great. The motor's good. The overall steering feel is excellent. Its ability to handle and its all-wheel drive system is surprisingly good, and that's its strongest suit, and why I'm kind of an advocate for it when I really didn't think I was going to like it from the get-go.